Matt Chenard, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Derek. Excited to chat.
Yeah, man, this is our second time. I was able, fortunately, to hop on your podcast a few months back, um, talk all things marketing and branding and growing businesses. And today we're going to dive into a whole lot more fun, man. This is going to be great.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So, $1 million question: did you get into the ice bath this morning?
I did. Yeah, it was a little rushed, but I did.
We pulled it off. Yeah. So Matt is a few hours before me. So it is 6 a.m. his time at the moment.
Yep. Yeah.
So he's taking one for the team here and getting up bright and early for the podcast.
Yeah, I was like, my brain's fresh after the cold plunge and doing my ruck. So I thought, well, might as well just get right into a podcast. It'll be great.
Other people might use a different descriptor than fresh. It might be like in survival mode.
Well,
Like
I should say there's a big difference between pre-ice tub mat and post-ice tub mat. Post-ice tub mat feels amazing. Pre just hates
mm,
every part of it. So
yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. So first,
yeah,
how did you get into this routine in the first place?
I got into it about 6 years ago. So at the time, I developed some sort of autoimmune condition, chronic hives, and it was associated to a lot of different things going on: nutrition, stress, chronic and acute stress, and eating different kind of foods. But I started to research and found out that heat and cold exposure can be beneficial for different autoimmune conditions. So I actually started cold showers or cold exposure about 6 years ago. And along with other different fitness protocols, or what I call fitness deposits, that started to subside. So
Mm.
I have been doing that in one way or another, like whether it's ice tub in the winter or the summer or cold showers, almost every single day. I probably missed a handful of days just because it's such a beneficial practice or deposit in my life.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, so uh, the question then is on a scale of like 1 to 10, right? 1 being like I would rather die and 10 being like I wouldn't mind freezing my ass off for a few minutes. On most mornings, where do you fall?
Probably a five,
Right smack in the middle.
right smack in the middle. I don't, yeah, I've been procrastinating more. It's actually way more difficult. So I actually just changed my routine up a little bit more.
Mm.
Usually I would do my whole morning routine. So I have a pretty robust morning routine. And then I do my cold exposure. But now I'm doing it right out of bed, which is, I would say, previously I was probably at a 7. Like I could do it, I could get my mind around it when I did it later in my routine. Now I'm at about a 5, like I mentioned, because I think it's building that much more mental resiliency to do it right out of bed. And that's kind of the goal for me. So I'm doing cold right out of bed, and then I do a, what I call a prayer and gratitude ruck. So I just put some weight on, I walk my dog. And the reason I'm doing that is there's been some studies that I've seen and people on Instagram. So for whatever it's worth, and that's why I'm testing on myself, that have shown that you can naturally increase testosterone levels by doing exercise post cold exposure.
Mm. That's
So
interesting.
I'm gonna take some blood test and actually test myself and see that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean that's if there's any way to prove it for its effect, efficacy and effectiveness for yourself, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I applaud you because I've been taking cold showers now for the past couple months as a way. I'm not for the longest time I was not a morning person, and then just because of some lifestyle changes for myself, kid businesses, those sort of things, it was inevitable that I was going to have to start getting up earlier and earlier. And now with the kid, that number on the clock continues to
It's
get
there.
more looking like night and less looking like morning. But with that said, it does entirely wake me up. Like it's like a switch. Like you said, post cold shower or post cold plunge is a totally different individual than pre.
Mm.
But with that said, I've recognized to your point that like for me, removing friction was important. So the reason why I actually chose the cold shower was because I can roll out of bed and I can brush my teeth while that water is running and I can get right in. So it's
Yeah.
like there is very, very little, few things in front of me to prevent me from getting into the cold water. So for you, the fact that you're like getting out of bed, like likely going downstairs, like getting undressed, like going into like outside, and a lot of times like you're in the snow. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's not like you're walking out into this like beautiful sunrise and you just happen to have like this $7,000, you know, uh temperature regulated tub. Like this thing is like filled with ice that you have to break and then climb into. So there's
Yeah.
like all sorts of friction there that you have to overcome mentally.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you talked about friction. I would just, so what I do in my cold plunge, and this actually helps me do it too. If anyone follows me on Instagram, I do talks while I do it. And that's part of my way of removing friction. Because we're talking about friction. That's one of my ways that I remove friction is knowing that, hey, I've created a following now that this is part of who I am. And I was joking with my wife this morning. I said, maybe we should just get a hot tub and I could do the same thing with that. Yeah. Um, but I mentioned that the other day in one of my talks in my tub is it's about removing friction from your good habits and adding friction from your bad habits. And there is quite a bit of friction in front of this habit just because it's cold for one, right? You're never going to, well, I haven't, maybe someone else wake up pumped to get in the cold. So you have to think of different ways to make sure you adhere to this habit, this deposit over a long period of time. And what I've kind of come up with is something I call the anchor method, right? So you're going to anchor it into something bigger than just the outcome you want, something that you're going to be able to tap into every single time you use the excuse that you don't want to, or you convince yourself or justify that you can stop doing it. So finding that deeper purpose. And I think precision nutrition is where I first heard of the 5 whys, meaning ask
Mm,
yourself 5 whys back to back to back to back until you get to the really deep reason behind prioritizing this habit or this deposit in your life. Because if you don't, I mean, we're both in the fitness industry. We could think of how many people come into the gym and say, I want to lose X amount of weight, which is, it's a great goal, right? If it's a healthy amount of weight and it's going to help you live longer and enjoy your life more now, but it's not a strong enough reason to stay consistent and transform your lifestyle. Because transforming your lifestyle, being consistent with cold exposure, being consistent with exercise, whatever you're trying to do is going to be difficult. You're going to meet resistance. You're going to meet times where this morning I was this close to telling myself, you don't have to do this today. But I anchored it in something other than just doing it. So I made sure to do it because it's bigger than just the results I feel afterwards.
yeah. Well, I mean, the whys are less, they feel less imperative when things are going well, right? When you have the time, you have the energy, you don't have kids waking you up in the middle of the night and, you're settled into a secure job and things are going great in your relationships and you're like, okay, cool. Like working out's fun. But like the whys are integral when things fall apart, and you have a million other things and reasons to kind of distract you from wanting to exercise or take care of yourself. And it's like that's where the whys really come in. So and to your point, like we can add and subtract from them. That it's ever evolving. They do change. I can promise you this: when a kid comes in your life, your bag of whys gets a lot heavier, in all the best ways possible. So yeah, that's awesome. And I know that that's something you teach to your clients. So you've been a gym owner now for going on 10 years, correct?
Yeah. So we affiliate owner for 10 years. Our gym, I'm just trying to remember last night. I think we're on our 12th year, but
Mm,
it started in a small little garage. And I'm a little foggy when the actual first class was.
yeah,
But yes, I've been a gym owner for a while.
fantastic. What are some of the biggest lessons and things you've taken out of a decade of gym ownership?
Ooh, there's a lot. So I co-opened the business, co-founded this business when I was 23, I believe. So I've had a lot of time to learn, and I was pretty young along this journey. the biggest lessons I've learned have been in the past 3 years. So during the pandemic. So there's a lot that had happened in the pandemic. So I bought my business partner out. I rebranded, but we're still CrossFit, but we created an umbrella company called Greater Purpose Health and Fitness to better encompass everything we offer in our gym, CrossFit being one of those. So we rebranded. I bought my business owner out and obviously our partner out. We went from 230 members to 88 members. We are closed. We couldn't use our gym for 7 months. Like our gym doors were closed and we opened and closed 4 or 5 times. So there's probably about, well, I couldn't even say how many lessons were in there. It seemed like it was all a lesson, all lesson in resiliency, in
Yeah.
leadership, in understanding that you need to, going back to this anchor method, this purpose, and this is kind of where it started to really make sense to me, is it's a principle that can be applied to anything. So you need to understand why you're running a business. If you're just pursuing a business, and this is why I tell a lot of my clients, coaching clients or mentoring clients for business too, is you need to make sure that this is important to you. Don't just pursue a business just for the money or just because it looks cool. You need to make sure this business, this pursuit is actually something of value to you and you will adhere to it for a long time. Because I think most of business failure or success is dependent on someone's ability to just stay in it. And to stay in it for a long period of time, you better be connected to a deeper purpose than just the profit, just the money. So that would be probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the years. That's all encompassing, is because you can have leadership principles, you can learn how to develop a culture, marketing, sales, whatever else it might be, but none of that matters if there's not a purpose behind it.
Yeah, that's it's an amazing perspective, and one that I wholeheartedly agree with. I mean, I think we're both fortunate in that we chose an industry that, let's put it this way, anyone that got into the gym industry because they wanted to make money is kind of an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, just being honest, right? And it's not that you can't do well for yourself. It's just
Right.
that if you took the top 10% of gym owners in the world and compared them to the top 10% of any other industry, literally any other industry, like, you can make cotton swabs and you will make more money than a gym owner. And this is probably why. And obviously helping people on the in the
Mm,
aspects of health and wellness play a huge role, because like that impact is arguably greater than almost any other impact you can make on a human being, right?
right.
Especially as it kind of permeates into their communities and family units. But like that right there, if that's not purpose, I don't know what is.
Right.
And then you extend that out and think like, now I'm helping coaches be able to do that for other people, right? So it's like now you become the ultimate lever in this equation. So yeah, I mean, I think we're both fortunate that we chose a career path that, like, you basically have to be passionate or you're not going to last.
No, absolutely. And I think I see a shift. I don't know about you, Derek, if you see this or not too, but I think the gym industry is becoming more professionalized. I think
Hmm.
in a couple of years, it'll become more so um, that people are seeking to become trainers, because how can it not? When you look around the world and the epidemic of chronic illness, it, through that can be prevented through lifestyle, nutrition, and exercise. And we know this, like you and I know this, and I think the world is slowly catching up and seeing this too. I think gym owners are going to be in a good place to help people, and there's going to be a lot of impact. But also, if you can do it right, there could be a lot of good opportunities to be a gym business owner. But yes, you're right. If if you want to take the easy way out and just make a lot of money, um, and very easily do that, gym ownership maybe isn't the first thing to pursue.
No, no. Well, and I think in order for us to accomplish that and to continue to push the industry forward, we need to continue to raise the value
Yes.
of being a coach, both in the way that they are trained and educated, but also in the way that they are compensated, and this has like been a huge measure for me of my own personal success, is how much I'm able to lift my coaches up,
Yep.
and I think this is going to be an imperative, because what we saw, in my opinion, from like 2000 and we'll say, 9 or 10 until about 2019 range, was that you had this like constant churn of coaches. Like, it was like, if you were a gym that maintained your coaching staff, like, it was a good indicator that you were doing well as a business, because if you're retaining coaches, you're likely retaining members, right? There's absolutely some congruency there. But in order to maintain coaches, like, you have to be able to offer a full-time living. Like, you have to be able to support these people and their families and the things that they want to accomplish. And that means that you have to value, right, your gym and your memberships appropriately. And I think this is, as you speak of the professionalism, like, this is where we're seeing the industry go now, right? Is these It's not just the F45s, the Orange Theories, that are kind of creating these robust programs that are based on models that can actually facilitate long-term employment and create careers for people. It's CrossFit gyms stepping up, right, to the chopping block and going like, we want to be part of this party too, right? Like, we want to
Right.
be able to create long-term opportunities for our employees. And I think that that's going to be a huge part of our ability to continue to not just professionalize, but be able to help more and more people in the long run.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a good measuring stick of success for your gym is having long-term coaches that are making a decent amount of money and also impacting people and they're enjoying it too. So yeah, I agree with you 100%, Derek.
Yeah. Now, you were part of seminar staff with CrossFit headquarters for about 4 years.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
Really good. And I say really good in the sense of if you look at a professional environment, a professional culture, a culture of excellence, like I was continually blown away by how good everyone was at their job and how passionate they were at their job. And I need to tell a little bit of story for that because if that's the case, why am I still not with them? So way back, I think it was 2012, 2013, I went to my first not my first one. I went to my CrossFit level 1 certification or certificate or L1 weekend, let's call it. And I was blown away. I was like, I want to wear that red shirt one day. I want to be a part of this culture, this amazing looking team. And so I started to slowly get, obviously you can't just join seminar stuff if you just got your level 1. So I continued to educate myself. I opened up affiliate in right around 2013, 2014, and got my level 2, got my level 3, and I emailed them on and off for about 2 years and just asked, hey, do you need more staff? Do you need more staff? And I don't know why I didn't send a resume prior, but finally I sent a resume and a cover letter and everything. And then they accepted me into their internship process. And I remember, so my mentor was Jason McDonald, fantastic guy. I remember him saying like, this is a tough job, just so you know. And I didn't really take that. I didn't really know what that meant. And because they expect so much, right? Because they're delivering these level 1 weekends that are so impactful to thousands and thousands of coaches every year, right? And as I started to get into this internship process, I think I did 3 or 4, traveled around and did the internship process. I noticed how they got energy when they did this. And I started to lose energy when I presented because I was so nervous, right? I was so
Mhm.
nervous and I've never been a public speaker and I committed to being more uncomfortable more often. So this was part of that process, right? So I was like looking at this red shirt saying, I really want to wear that. Honestly, probably for selfish reasons. so people would look up to me. And I wanted to get uncomfortable and be better at public speaking, getting out of my comfort zone that way. So I got hired on, and I thought this feeling of nervousness. So literally every time I got booked for a seminar, I'd be nervous for 2 weeks prior. I couldn't concentrate on my affiliate. I couldn't concentrate on other stuff because I was so nervous. And that's part of the cold exposure. Like cold exposure helped me getting onto podcasts, doing all these different things that helped me. But there's still something there that it didn't seem like it was a part of who I was.
Yeah.
I would way rather get a one-on-one call and help people that way. And not to say I didn't find benefit or there wasn't a lot of fruit in doing that for me. But long story short, I had a conversation with my mentor and I said, I can't do this. Like, I feel like to be at the level they're at and to gain energy every single weekend, because they were doing this going back to affiliate coaching and business owners too. So I started click into me is like, they're probably not feeling the same thing I am. And I kind of got confirmation of that. So that's where I left. It's had nothing to do with CrossFit, but everything to do with, I got into it for the wrong reasons. So talking about the purpose again, the purpose was probably selfish, and I stuck with it for a long time, because I believe you should give everything the best you can. Everything you've been entrusted with, you should try to steward the best of your abilities. So that's my story of why I'm not there anymore.
Yeah, so that's interesting because like you obviously are very accustomed to standing in front of a group of people inside of your own affiliate and coaching. So I wonder what it was for you, being outside of that environment that affected you so greatly when you were on the affiliate staff.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think part of it too is right around, I can't remember. I think I've been with Two Brain Business is a mentoring service. I'm a mentee. I've been there for a long time. Um, I started to realize this whole area of entrepreneurship, and that gave me energy. I could get up every single morning and do this and investigate and want to do more of this. And that's not to say I don't still like coaching. I don't still, I still really enjoy coaching fitness, but I don't do it as much. And in my affiliate, it feels like I know everyone. I feel comfortable, right? I feel like I can be myself. And that's what I worked on the weekend seminars. But I think there was so much gap between doing them for me because I didn't request as many weekends as a lot of the other people did. So I didn't get that congruency, or I didn't get that consistency to actually feel home in teaching things back to back. And because there is a really in-depth, specific way to teach, which is why it's so excellent every time you go. So I think it's a twofold thing is I started to realize I really love entrepreneurship and business ownership and that whole area. And I feel really comfortable in my gym because I mean, it's my gym, right?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you're always going to feel better inside of your own environment around your people. It's funny whenever I have people ask me, that are in pursuit of being a coach, what are your thoughts on the L1? I always say to me, it's like capitalism. Like everyone has their bone to pick, but there's no system that's been proven to be better, so it's not perfect. But they're continuing to evolve it. And the staff over there does a very good job at that. I would argue that that's probably the backbone and of HQ, and the best thing that they do is educate their trainers.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people out there that would have something to say about that, and I would challenge them to point me in the direction of another organization that trains their coaches better, because I've been inside of the traditional settings with the NSCA, the ACSM. I don't see it, and like that's at a university level. So having experienced both of those, I think that you gotta tip the hat off to CrossFit.
Absolutely. So we've had trainers, and my one trainer, he's in Canada, kinesiology. I think it's probably the same in the States. He has a kines degree, or I guess it would be exercise science. And he went to his level 1. And when he came back, so this is probably 6 years ago, he's like, I didn't learn any of this, right? I didn't learn how to look at a squat, right? You'll learn things about anatomy and physiology and all these different aspects of the human body and fitness or energy systems. And you learn a little bit about that at level one, but there's opportunities to continue to grow after too. But what you really learn is how to watch someone move, how to make them move better, and how to make an enjoyable experience, right? And how do people get results? Well, it's not from the coach who sits there and explains every single aspect of the human body and tries to prove how smart they are. It's someone who can create an environment, a culture, a gym that's enjoyable, but also know how to help them move better at the same time. Because you're going to get results from something you adhere to for a long period of time that's enjoyable. It doesn't really matter if you have all these degrees and all these certificates and if you can't actually help someone move better, enjoy the process, it doesn't matter.
That's the crux of the problem. Yeah. Last week I had Jordan Side on the podcast, and we spoke about this very issue. And, we were talking about how that's the biggest hurdle, right? And the bridge there's a gap there that's not being bridged between the university level and actually putting things in application in terms of being a coach, is that kids are coming out of university having almost either never had experience with coaching for extended periods of time or having very little, right? And it's like putting in those reps. Like if people ask me like okay, so basically like if you were to look at like elementary school as like the foundation of all of your education, right? Where you learned like your basics of arithmetic and language and reading and empathy and like being able to converse and have interpersonal skills. To me, it's like it was the first like 3 to 5 years of gym ownership where I was putting in 60-hour weeks, right? Where it's like the reps were getting put in back. I don't even remember how many classes I was coaching back then, but it was probably somewhere in the realm of 25 to 30 classes a week, and it's like that adds up, so it's like I don't consider my time spent at university where I really launched as a coach. It was in those first few years of grinding and putting time in on the floor. And I'm sure, for you, it was very much the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I still remember it so vividly. Waking up for 6 a.m., coaching the class, um, coaching seven, I think it was seven, roughly seven a day, and then still doing business stuff, which I thought that was like more of the thing that you try to fit in instead of saying, oh, I need to work on this business to actually make it a business long term.
Right.
And then mopping the floors, doing all these things. And that would actually contribute to what I said at the start of the podcast. My chronic hives is that was part of the stress. There's this chronic stress of just grinding, and hopefully one day I wouldn't have to do all this instead of actually thinking, oh, I need to scale, I need to train, I need to hire. So yeah, I think all that time spent doing that, it just becomes automatic. It becomes, you understand it, right? And you get more certificates, you get more education as you go along, and it resonates way more and it's way more impactful because you're learning to implement instead of, and probably a lot of people when they go through post-secondary, they're learning to get a job, right? They're learning to get instead of saying I'm learning to actually impact.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a James Clear quote where he said, strategy without hard work is a dream, but hard work without strategy is a nightmare. And I think that as a gym owner, we've all experienced that nightmare scenario where it was just like, nose to the grindstone, go, 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 in hope that someday that the sun was going to poke through and you're going to finally be able to breathe a little bit and get some footing. And ultimately what both of us experienced was through mentorship, we're both
Yep.
part of Two Brain, is that you have to be able to remove yourself enough to actually work on the business. And that's really where things start to blossom. And you feel like an actual gym owner, and you feel like you can provide better opportunities for your employees and for your members that way. But I don't know about you, it took me 8 years somewhere in there, man. It was brutal.
Yeah, that's a long time. So I would have been a little bit quicker because I think if I'm remembering right, 2016. 2016 or 2017, I think we started with Two Brain Business. No, maybe 2018. It
It
was,
all
it
blurs
was
together.
sooner than 8 years, sooner than 8 years. And it was like, my eyes were open. Oh, if we don't change this, I'm going to burn out. We're not going to be here long term. And my members aren't going to have anywhere to go.
Yeah, I mean, and I can think of no better way to serve your members than to be open for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in terms of your effectiveness on your community, it's like stay open. Stay open, keep your coaches running, keep them motivated, and continue to be a home for the people that want to change their health. That's it.
Yeah. And I think that's encouragement to any business or fitness business owners listening is, first of all, get mentorship. You don't have to just try to grind it through and hope that you see the sunrise one day or the sun coming through. And the next one is, you know what, it slipped my mind, but it's a good one. I remember it's a good one. Oh, it's an important job. It's an important thing. It's an important purpose. And I think this is part of the reason why it's so difficult. Whether you're a business owner in the fitness industry or a trainer, you're not going to see those instant results. And meaning, aside from the experience you give people, the coaching you give them in a class, people aren't going to, if you are doing your job, you're going to prevent injury, you're going to prevent disease, you're going to prevent mental illness, you're going to prevent all these things by helping people live better, change their lifestyle, eat better, exercise. So you won't necessarily know what you help them prevent, right? You'll help some people lose weight and you'll see that, and that'll be enriching to you. But one of the most difficult things, I think, as someone who's in the fitness industry, your client won't necessarily know what you help them prevent, and you won't necessarily know. So there, you need to be really rooted in the reason why you're doing that, and knowing, like you said, if you're there for 30 years, 10, 20, 30 years, without a shadow of doubt, you've helped them stay away from disease and you've given them years back in their lives. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and purpose, and what's funny about this, to kind of bring that point full circle, is that, we spoke about the need for meaning and purpose earlier, and it's like it it is the time horizon is in direct proportion to the amount of purpose that someone gets out of a pursuit, right? As well as the obstacles that they face along the way. So taking somebody over the course of 5 years, right, to be able to accomplish the thing that they want to accomplish helps them see that pursuit as meaningful, right? And this goes for the gym owner as much as it does the client. The person that loses 30 pounds and is, we'll say, has more lean muscle mass, and all these performance metrics in terms of their fitness level have improved, and now they're just like fully bought in. It's like they're a different human being in 5 years. And I think the same is true for the business owner that takes the time to make the long-term investments to then see them come to fruition. It's like you're a different human being when you come out of that, and as you reflect on it, it provides you the meaning and the purpose to move forward and continue to make the climb up the mountain.
Absolutely. And there must be an aspect to it, because both of us, prior to mentoring, we're still doing it, right? We must have had an idea of this purpose behind it, this overarching purpose that, hey, we're making a difference. And this is probably the reason why I'm able to justify spending so many hours in here with so little pay, right? And I think that, I like how you said that, you start to have moments where you step back and look at it and say, oh, this is really important, right? Because it doesn't just affect physically, right? We're not just talking about the physical sense. So something I use is the Fit 5 investing system: mental, physical, spiritual, relational, and professional. So all these are separate categories, but they're all in this flywheel. They all impact the other one, right? So when you work out, it's going to impact your mental health. When you work out, it's going to impact your marriage. When you work out, it's going to impact your professional life. All these different aspects of this Fit 5 investing system, they're going to impact each other. So it's not just that we're helping people get physically fit, we're actually helping them become better husbands, wives, spouses, parents, grandparents, employees, bosses, co-workers. Like that's a lot of purpose. It's no longer just about the weight loss. You're helping people become more holistically healthy and fit so they can enjoy their life now and not just try to get to an arbitrary age of retirement to then enjoy their life.
Yeah, and I mean, I think alongside purpose, you could call it responsibility. You start to feel a responsibility to
Yeah.
the people that you can help. And to your point, I think once you've been doing it long enough, once you've been working on yourself long enough, you start to see the effect that it has positively on those around you and the people, especially the people you really care about. And it's like, oh wow, like when I let myself go, it negatively impacts the people that I want to help and love the most. And I think that's why when you see someone that has been working out for 20 years and people are like, well, how do you continue to do it? It's because it's not just a matter that that it's become part of who they are. It's become a part of who their family is. It's become part of like who their community is now, right? Like people start to depend on them, right? Like they're the leader amongst their friend groups. And I think seeing it through that lens can be the reason why no one has a 20-year stretch where like nothing, where life is completely perfect and nothing comes in its way. Like we
Right.
all go through, seasonality with ups and downs. And it's like, that's the thing that pushes you through the low points, right? It's the recognition that this is bigger than you.
Yeah. It's a shift of identity too, right? The responsibility. So there's a thought I had on this. You need to make it weird. You need to make your bad habits weird, right? So habits over time become a lifestyle. It becomes part of your identity. So if you have poor habits in your life, right? So if you have the habit of drinking, let's just say this, instead of going to cold exposure, you drink pop right when you wake up in the morning. I don't know if anyone does that listening to this, but let's say you do. You need to figure a way to make that weird. Add resistance in front of this habit so that over time it would feel weird. It would feel off to even think about drinking pop at 6 a.m. in the morning or whatever else when you wake up in the morning. That when people see you, you start to embody this person. You have this identity that people would say, "Oh, I'm sure Matt doesn't have pop when he wakes up in the morning," because that wouldn't be a part of his identity, right? That'd be weird if he did that. So now you start to step into these different habits. You're prioritizing these habits. You're removing friction from these good habits. And once you adhere to these habits over time, it becomes a lifestyle. Once you've done it for a long enough period of time, it becomes part of your identity, right? So now you could take me 6 years, but part of my identity now is it's not all my identity. Like if I lose it, I'm not going to become a different person. But part of who I am is I do cold exposure every single day because it makes me a better person to those around me, and it helps me get more clarity. It helps me have a better work day. It helps me be more positive, all these benefits. So it's a part of who I am. It's a benefit to me. And it would now feel weird if I didn't do that. So make it feel weird not to do the good habits and make it feel
Mm,
weird to prioritize the bad habits.
very true. Yeah. I mean, and that's how we try to position the environment for our clients, and to help them succeed, because the environment's always going to win. And it's a long-term battle, but one worth fighting.
Yeah.
So like most gym owners, you've reached a level of success where now you're trying to spread your wings and do some things that are more continue to be a complement to the gifts that you personally have as a gym owner and now as an entrepreneur. Talk to me a little bit about your business mentorship that you do.
Yeah. So I would say it's leadership and business. But I started to notice throughout the years that there's principles that you're going to read in all those books behind you, and I'm going to read in all those books behind me, that you're going to learn from mentors, coaches, whether it's fitness, relational, professional, you're going to see there's common threads, there's common principles, there's methods, there's tactics. And that's really what I focus on with my coaching clients. So I help business owners profit in business. I help entrepreneurs, so investments, whether it's investments or business, I help entrepreneurs profit in their investments and businesses without bankrupting their personal life. So if I'm talking about that Fit 5 investing system, I'm helping you balance everything, but still achieve excellence in everything. I'm sure we've both rubbed shoulders with a lot of different entrepreneurs that, hey, they're uber successful. And I think that's a great pursuit because you profit in business, you're successful in business, you can impact and share with others. But I'm sure we've both seen business owners who are super successful, uber successful in their business, but then physically they're not doing well, relationally they're not doing well, spiritually they're not doing well, mentally they're not doing well. So what is that success worth to you in the business? You're going to be left continually pursuing an arbitrary measurement of success. So maybe it's $1 million, $2 million, decamillionaire, whatever it is. And then realizing every time you reach a new milestone, I still feel the same way. I feel empty. I need to pursue something else. And at the same time, everything else is being bankrupt in your life. It started as gaining a little bit of weight. It started about not feeling as mentally good, right? It started about maybe prioritizing some habits that are not beneficial, drinking too much, eating too much. And then all these things start to compound. And before you know it, you're bankrupting, you've lost everything in all these different accounts, right? Because everything compounds. Your deposits, and that's why I talk about as deposits, it's an easy visual. How you spend your time, money, and energy is going to equal out to something in the future. So all the habits you're doing, and I want to encourage people, if you're prioritizing your fitness, you're not seeing results right now, just keep doing it. Over time, it'll compound into something in the future. But you know what else also compounds is the poor habits or neglect, because even inaction is still an action. So if you're not prioritizing or investing in your marriage, that's going to equate to something. That's going to equal out to something in the future. If you're not investing in your mental health, your spiritual health, your physical health, it's going to equal out to something in the future. You can't expect to put all your time, money, and energy into your business, and then the byproduct of that be a happy marriage or a good relationship with your kids. You need to be intentional and actually systemize and structure your time, money, and energy to invest in all areas of life. So that's a snapshot, an overlooking view of what I help business owners with. So I help them with tactics to still profit and be successful in business without sacrificing the other parts of their life.
That's phenomenal, man. I mean, I think this is going to start to become, just as the fitness industry is starting to professionalize and expand, I think this is going to be the next layer of this, because it is, I've worked with a lot of people that to the average person would seem very successful, right? At least from a financial perspective. And then spending enough time with them in a one-on-one or small group setting, you start to learn more about their lives. And then recognizing that the only thing that you would want of their life when you're their age is the financial success became this indicator for me that perhaps the methods they use to get there are not what needs to be put in place. And at the extreme level of this, there was a CEO that basically wrote an article pleading younger business owners to pay attention to their families and to their lifestyle factors as they continued on their path to success financially. And more or less what he said was that he spent his entire life growing companies to then sell them at his age of retirement. And he had all the money in the world and now all the time. And he reached out to his kids because he wanted to start to travel the world. And they were like, we don't want to go. Like, Dad, you haven't been here our entire lives, you know? And like, to
Yeah.
me, like that's hell. That's hell. So I think we all need to take a page out of that book and just take the opportunity to make sure that we're constantly reevaluating and reviewing if we're not just putting everything into one bucket.
Yeah. I think as you're talking there, and I think that's a really good point, and it's really eye opening. We could we can apply this and think of this in the same way as CrossFit. So CrossFit is a methodology that helps you increase work capacity across broad times and modal domains, meaning you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be the top of any sport, but you're going to be excellent at all these different aspects of sport, like the 10 general physical skills, which would be stamina, endurance, strength, power. And how you do that is by investing in all these different modalities, meaning weightlifting, running, heavy lifts, shorter or glycolytic, anaerobic, all these different things. Now, let's say you wanted to just focus on powerlifting, which is fine, right? You could get super strong, but you're doing that at the sacrifice of being able to run a marathon. And if you're okay with that, then that's okay, right? You have to know what you're sacrificing, but you're sacrificing holistic health for this pursuit. It's the exact same thing we're talking about here. And this Fit 5 system is, okay, you're prioritizing, you're trying to become excellent. You're trying to get all the money in the world by prioritizing your business, but you are sacrificing all these other aspects. And that's what CrossFit has done so well, right? They're helping you become holistic. You're becoming fit across broad times and modal domains, which is actually a better way to live over the long term. There's longevity in that. Where the same way, if you prioritize all these different aspects of your life, you might not elevate your business as fast as you could. But you know what? You're going to get to the end of that pursuit and have family around you. You're going to have a physical body that you can actually enjoy what you've worked so hard for. So be okay with slow, but don't be okay with sacrificing everything that actually matters in the pursuit of more success, because success is arbitrary, inconsistent, always changing amount. There's never going to be an agreement of what success truly is. And that's why my definition of success is steward everything you've been given to the best of your abilities.
Yeah. And I mean, fitness and business are both infinite pursuits, right? They're infinite games. You don't win fitness, right? You don't win health. You don't win marriage. You don't win business. You just keep playing the game, right? And the way to keep playing the game is to make sure that you're taking all care of all the pieces around you that help facilitate the game in the first place.
Yeah, 100%.
I love it. Well, hey, speaking of sacrifice, you have a little one on the way.
Yeah.
Have you always wanted to be a dad? Is that something you've known?
Yes. I don't think it became, I knew I would always I would want to, and I would be if we were blessed to be able to do that. And I think, yeah, again, the past 2 or 3 years maybe push things back 2 or 3 years for us. But yeah, we're excited, nervous. It's a new adventure. I don't know. I'm sure people watch Lord of the Rings on here, but I always keep thinking every time I do something new, I think of, well, it's the Hobbit, technically, Bilbo going out with his map saying I'm going on an adventure, right? And that's exciting to me. Like, adventures aren't perfect, but they are refining and exciting.
It is one of the coolest experiences you're ever going to have because it's in large part something you're just kind of along for the ride. Like kids so much so dictate the things that are going to go on inside of your mind and inside of your house, because you're not, you're not in control of them. They're in control of the situation,
Right.
in the way that they're their own human being, and you're going to learn as you go. And I think that there is some parallels between business ownership and raising children. And I'm speaking about this from a position of only being in this a couple weeks at this point. But I will say that the first few weeks are very challenging, but some of the most rewarding times in your entire life, dude. You're gonna have such a blast. I couldn't be happier for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And isn't that the truth? Everything, like, you remember the challenging stuff. Yes, you'll remember the exciting stuff and the comfortable things, but it's usually the challenging things that people want, the stories people want to hear, and that actually make a big difference in your life.
Well, I look forward to you trying to bottle feed the baby while you are in
The
the
ice
ice
stuff.
bath.
Yeah, I'm thinking, how long do I wait until I take the baby? No, I'm just kidding. Joking again.
Yeah, yeah. Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Matt, thanks so much for hopping on. I really do appreciate it. Tell the audience where they can learn more about you.
Yeah. So you can Instagram at Matt Chenard. You'll see my cold plunging, my business mentorship, business and leadership mentorship, and lifestyle coaching is on truealphacoaching.com.
I love it. Well, hey, Matt, thanks so much for hopping on again.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate you.